2A. Fleet Street, Phase 2A, Vaughn Mall. So, all the members of the project team are here tonight to answer questions. We are planning on starting construction right after the holiday. As the message board said, they were parked on either side of the job site for the last couple of days. So let's do the introductions. You want to start?
Sure.
You want to do that with the slide?
Yeah, we can do that with the slides. Go and click on the slideshow. Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see if it does it. There we go. Click. All right. So just a quick introduction for myself. My name's Dan Rochette. I'm with Underwood Engineers, project manager for Underwood. I guess we're the city's consultant for the design work and the administrating the construction process. We have a handful of slides here just to kind of introduce the full project team, just kind of review the limits of work and the scope of what we're doing. And then talk a little bit about the schedule and what can be expected as far as impacts once we get going, and then we'll talk a little bit about distribution of information. So there's obviously this three primary components of the project team. There's the city of Portsmouth, there's ourselves, Underwood Engineers, and there's Grenice and Sons, who are going to be the general contractors actually completing the work.
So let's just go down. So going down that list, we'll just introduce ourselves in order. So I'm Dave DeFosis. I'm the project manager for the city, for the project, the entire project. And Eric?
City engineer, I'm Eric Fiedler. You only come to me if everything else has failed, but
And Doug Sparks isn't here tonight, but he's the utilities foreman. He's in charge of the water and sewer systems in the city. And Dan already introduced himself. Cole?
My name's Cole Archeri Rowe. I'm the project engineer for this project.
Cheryl?
I'm a RPR. I'll be on site with the contractors.
And
Brooks, even Brian Ham Brooks, I'll be the super on the job.
so Brooks.
So come to me with problems after you call him.
So Brooks will be managing the construction crews day to day. He'll be on site pretty much 24 hours a day.
And today.
Yes.
Um,
So Brooks will be there basically managing the project full time.
Yeah, and that's probably some of the key information today is, between Brooks and Cheryl. They're on site every day, and if there's any immediate concerns or questions, those are the two to get a hold of first and start out trying to resolve something or get answers. Dave usually comes in and out as the day progresses, but he's not there all day, every day. So feel free to reach out to Cheryl and Brooks.
yeah, especially if you have concerns and stuff. I know there's gonna be a lot of contractor staff, but the best thing to do is go to Cheryl, find Brooks type thing, because they can make sure it's conveyed up through like city staff. Because sometimes the contractors, guys, they're trying to do work type thing, so they're not the best ones to go to if you have concerns. Just really go to the bosses or go to Cheryl as a representative of the city type thing. So it makes it cleaner too, because you don't want to say like, oh, this guy told me one thing and this guy did this. It's like clean communication, and we can make sure we're responsive to you, especially if you have issues with, operating your business or there's other things going on.
We'll have this whole presentation on the project page on the city website, and their contact information will be pulled out of the presentation, so it's right up front on the project page, so you
Yep.
can find it.
And this project page is under Fleet Street. Right?
No. it's on
Is
the-
that its own thing?
It does.
Okay, so it's its own, Vaughn Mall is its own project page. Okay?
So briefly with the project limits, all the work that's scheduled for this fall is essentially Vaughn Mall itself, from Hanover Street to Congress Street, We'll be digging in Hanover Street a little bit for some of the utility connections, but primarily the work is concentrated on Von Mall. There is a second phase or second portion of the project on Congress Street, but right now that project hasn't been awarded. It may, if it is awarded and it does go through, it won't be until the spring of next year. Just real quick on the scope of work, this is a full utility replacement underneath the Von Mall. So we'll be essentially pulling up all those concrete panels that you walk on every day and replacing the water line, the sewer line, and the drain lines that go underneath the surface. It is essentially the primary trunk line that drains
That whole portion of
that whole
downtown.
portion of downtown. So like the music hall, that side of Market Square, all kind of drains down this way for the
Everything on
drainage.
Congress Street.
Upper Fleet Street from State Street over. So it's kind of the main trunk line and the low point for the area. So we need to go in, upsize some of the pipes, upsize the drain pipes to be able to accommodate future separation work that's anticipated. We will be removing some trees. I have a slide about that in a little bit. But there are gonna be some trees remaining, especially the project was designed around keeping the trees that are up against the Worth parking lot. That's kind of next to the stage, and the other trees that are I think they're oaks, the big oak trees that are kind of in the center of the walking area are scheduled for removal. We will be doing our best to, we have provisions to try to make sure the trees stay healthy after we're done. We have root growth soils going in and whatnot after the fact, to try to help maintain the health of those trees. And the restoration for this portion is only gonna be what we're calling a temporary restoration. So right now, we're just doing the utility work. And then we're gonna just pave it over with asphalt, just to provide a sturdy walking surface until
Until we
Until-
fund the permanent improvements. So we're estimating that the permanent improvements are somewhere around a $2 million project. So we're asking the city council for funds in this CIP so that we can get that funded and get the mall restored.
Impacts and how this will affect people along the Von Mall. You know, obviously, there's no sugarcoating it. Construction's not a clean operation. It is messy. We'll do the best we can to, you know, keep things generally clean and dust down, but it is heavy excavation work, so it's not a clean process. We will be maintaining accessibility to all the storefronts and the shops along the Von Mall. There are provisions in place to try to keep pedestrian corridors to the best that we can, kind of a separate pedestrian corridor for people to walk along while the work is being completed. That'll have various looks and stages. When we're doing a certain portion of the work, all the pedestrians will be able to be pushed up against the building and have kind of a clear path there. Part of the work is in close proximity to the building, so when that happens, things will probably look a little creative. Safe pedestrian travel will be maintained. But it may look a little different every day depending on the contractor's operations. And there will be flaggers on site on a daily basis to help guide pedestrians around, especially when it comes to getting from the Worth parking lot to the Von Mall and the storefronts. There is gonna be a little bit of a loss of parking for the Worth lot. The contractor will be using some of those spots to help stage some of their materials and whatnot that they have going on to be installed. It is a very tight site with not a lot of space to move around, so they do need a little space to help accommodate that. I think it's Dave, around six spots or so is what we talked about.
Yeah, basically the spaces that are up against where the guardrail, where the wall used to be. Basically, all the spots along that guardrail will be occupied. And then depending upon where Brooks is working, there's basically the two main passageways out of the Worth lot to get to the stores. There's one on the left over by Novacure, and there's one on the right over by where the dumpster enclosure is, for lack of a better reference. So depending upon where we're working, one or the other one will be available for pedestrians to get through to the shopping area. But as Dan alluded, I guess we wanna kind of focus on that. So we've really engineered the hell out of this job to try to minimize damage to the trees. And to do that, basically the central utility core where we're gonna be doing almost all the digging is right up the middle of the Vaughn Mall. So that'll keep, at least in the first phase, that'll keep access to the storefronts next to the storefronts, so that 5 or 6 feet that's generally was kind of like between the planters and the building. That area will be the access way to get, so people can get back and forth to the storefronts. And then later on in the job, once the sanitary sewer and the drainage system are installed, that area becomes where the water main needs to go. So then the pedestrians will be rerouted into the areas that we had previously dug to put in the sanitary sewer and the drainage system. So we'll be kind of walking pedestrians through. We have ordered a bunch of pedestrian sized barricades, for lack of a better word, that'll sit on the side of where people will be allowed to go. They're all new, they're all clean. And we'll be using those to kind of corral people to make sure that they're not in unsafe areas. At the same time, these barricades, which they look like mini Jersey barriers, but pedestrian scale. And they're only about this high, because we know that it's important that people, when we're not there, and let's talk about when we're not there. So we're not there on the weekend, and we're not there after 5 o'clock, usually at night. So we're kind of an early morning, hit it hard, usually we're there working at 7 o'clock and we're gone by 5. So you have basically retail time to when there's no machines and no noise and no chaos going on is at night after 5 and then all weekend long. So you should just, kind of plan around that. During the week, we have to do what we have to do. So we will be routing the pedestrians through these channelized areas, but we got the pedestrian sized barricades so that even when we're working, people arrive at the Worth lot, they can see through the work zone, they can see all the storefronts. So they can see where they want to go, and then we'll have pedestrian siding in the parking lot, sending them to either the Novacure side or the dumpster side, depending upon which passageway is safer that day, so that people know how to get to your businesses. And some of you have talked to already about how we're gonna funnel pedestrian traffic. We understand that you need to stay in business. We've done several projects in the downtown. Haven't lost any pedestrians yet. But I mean, we are in for probably a good 10 weeks of heavy construction work before.
So we anticipate the construction site to be 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's about 10, maybe 12 weeks, but it depends how it goes. Because the water and the sewer, storm drain and the sewer are going in basically in the same trench. So the linear progression down the Vaughn Mall will be a little slower than we usually do. But at the same time, we'll be putting in both utilities at the same time. So we're hoping that that's actually gonna expedite things a little bit. Our goal is to get out of Dodge just as soon as we can and not be there an extra day. We don't really want to impact your businesses any more than we have to. We understand that this is a hardship on you. But at the same time, this next weekend is the anniversary of when the sewer collapsed in the Vaughn Mall last Labor Day weekend. So a lot of you weren't there, but we were there. So that was really we knew that this project was gonna have to happen, but this project really got streamlined because of what happened. So the whole section outside of Novacure basically collapsed on Friday morning, just before the weekend. You guys were about to open, you were having a grand opening.
On
And
Tuesday.
literally, the concrete panels started collapsing The
Started with,
entire sewer started collapsing.
oh yeah, sewer coming up our drains, that's how
Yep.
it started
The
and.
sewer was going everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, it was horrible. So. We're gonna fix that.
Can I ask a question on that topic? We had a big issue with that last year with the construction and the smell of sewer coming in and out of our pipes. Is that gonna continue this time through construction? Just because we're a food industry and we had to have the health inspector in
Of course.
administrate that before we can
The,
continue business.
the scent of what you went through because of the emergency situation was worse than it normally is.
Okay,
So it won't be as bad.
Okay.
But there will be, depending upon what we're doing, there will be, we're gonna be pumping the sewage
Right.
around the work zone. So it's gonna get intercepted at Congress Street and deposited at Hanover Street, basically around the work zone. So we're not gonna be actively working in with a bunch of open, live stuff going on.
Cause what was happening is it was going under the sidewalk and going into the storm drain and all those open storm drain basins were letting the smells out. So that's not happening.
So as the water was running here, there and everywhere, it was exposed to open air.
Yeah.
Where there's gonna be a lot, there's gonna be a lot less of that.
okay,
But that being said, if you're having nuisance odors or things that are a problem, let us know, because it could be something that we can accommodate or mitigate by something.
And it might not be, but say something.
But say something though, if
yeah,
you're
cause
having.
our.
smell
tier
something,
two
say.
alarms went off.
Right, cause the problem too,
That.
that it was going in the drains right between like the seating area and stuff, where we're keeping it outside of that area.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so let's keep going through this
Just a quick
presentation.
question, before, do we
Yeah.
have a tentative progression of how the work is starting Hanover going up? So,
Yeah.
wanna,
Well, I was gonna get to that.
okay, sorry.
That's okay. So, the next step is the tree removal,
Tree removal.
I think.
I had a little bit about temp water. I just had a quick thing about temporary water. So during the construction, we are gonna install a temporary water system so that, obviously water service is maintained while we're doing the work. It's gonna be buried below ground, so you won't see it. It's gonna be connected into, your normal water service pipe on the outside of the building if your building is
There's
connected.
actually
on the
very
building
few
wall.
buildings-
There are very few.
There are actually very few buildings that are gonna be on temporary water, but there are a few.
Yeah.
So most of the buildings that are gonna be on temporary water are the
Are on the
buildings
Congress
that
Street
are
side.
on a Congress Street side. So like
Building.
Novacure has taps out in Hanover Street, you're not gonna be affected.
Yeah, yeah.
The Worth Building has taps in Congress Street, they're not gonna be.
There is.
Oh, yeah, there is
There's a
a
service that comes
there is
out
a
the back of
service
the
for that.
building. So the Worth building,
The under-
our building, which is where like the goods
Right.
and
And you kind of deserve it,
yeah, understandably, I'll probably end up in the hole by the time the project's done, but
probably.
so essentially it's our building,
Yes.
the Worth building, and then I think the Frank.
So and the reason why we're doing that is because the water main is located right where we have to put the first round of utilities. So the existing water main dates back to 1890. It's what like to call first generation metal. So the original water system in Portsmouth was wood pipes and it was very low pressure. It was like 5, 6, 7 PSI, almost nothing. And you would have a tap in your basement and that you would bring a bucket of water upstairs. That's how it worked. So when we switched and we started standardizing indoor plumbing, then the toilets and facilities had to go on the upper floors so that they would flush. And that's when the water system got upsized to the middle. So the pipe that we've been replacing on Islington Street for 17 and a half years is that original
Been that
vintage. So
short?
that pipe came out of the Sherburne pumping station, which is down by where the skate park is, came all the way down Islington Street, went right up Congress Street, and then went sideways down Vaughn Street, which at the time was a main road. And basically, during the 1890 through 1892, those 2 years, they put in cast iron through all of downtown and raised the pressures. So this pipe that we're replacing, that we have to put the drainage and the sewer infrastructure in that spot, is original vintage. So we don't want to take a chance breaking that water main. So the first thing we're gonna do is install this temporary water main. That'll be up against near where the guardrail is on that side, so that we don't take a chance of breaking it. Anywhere that there's a pathway or something, we'll dive it underground, we'll come back up, and all the service taps will be off that.
And bury the whole thing, you won't see anything.
Right, so that'll be step one, we'll make sure it's, we chlorinate it, we test it, everything else, and then once we're sure that's good, will hook everybody's service up and you'll be drinking off that. You won't even know that you're drinking off a temporary water main, really. So that's step one. And then once that water main's dead, then we can proceed on putting in these gravity storm drains and sewer systems. So that's the temporary water thing.
Yep, and there will be some short duration interruptions when we have to swap people from the existing main to the temporary. We'll do our best to coordinate with the buildings, because we know there's restaurants and there's people that
We will
rely
coordinate
on
with the
water,
buildings.
so we'll coordinate to make
We're
sure
gonna do
that
better than our best.
do it better than
We're
our
gonna do
best.
it. Yep. Okay.
To make
Good.
sure that it's at convenient times. So the tree removal, we alluded to a little bit. So there's 6 trees that kind of run up the center of the Vaughn Mall here. These are the ones that are scheduled to be removed. And they are scheduled to be removed, I think, the first week of work, right, Brooks? I think is
Yeah.
the word we've gotten.
From now.
2 weeks, yep.
Yep.
And the trees we've kind of shown here, these are the ones that are up adjacent to the parking lot. There's 4 trees here. These trees are the ones that we've designed around for them to remain.
Right, we reviewed all the trees with the arborist, so the trees in the center have to go, because that's the utility corridor. And we won't be putting trees back there because we don't want trees on vital infrastructure. But the trees that are over on the stage side, the arborists, we've had a couple arborists look at them, they're all healthy trees and we're trying to protect those. So we don't lose all the green when we're done.
So I'm concerned about the Worth building, and there's 2 trees up against the Worth building, and those are both staying,
Yes,
correct? And there's one big tree by law, Coretta, sorry, I'm pointing to her, and that one's staying?
yes.
Okay, so that's got a little tiny quarter right there, right? So everything on the right side, so those 2
Yes.
that you can't see in the picture, the ones where the stage are, the one over on the right, those are all staying, everything on the left side is going.
God willing, yes, that is the plan.
And then I think there's like bushes and stuff,
Shrubbery?
yeah, whatever, over on the left over
So
here.
the shrubbery will stay temporarily. There's a whole restoration plan that Terrence has been working on.
Which was that was the last presentation.
But that'll be, at least a year out before we do the restoration. So they'll stay, whatever, yeah, we will try to keep everything intact that we can.
I think we were thinking that the shrubbery up against
You will also see,
Shalimar.
you also see the public works guys will be there, will be active this week coming up. We're gonna be starting to run temporary lighting, because all the light poles are kind of in the middle of the Vaughn Mall, and they will be the first, when we start tearing out the concrete deck, they will be among the first victims of what has to go. So we're gonna lose lighting, so we're gonna be running temporary lighting up on the guardrail where we know that Brooks won't destroy it. And we'll be setting up temporary lighting that will be in place through the winter season.
This might be out of order, but there's 2 really big signs on both ends, the big brown signs
Yes,
that
they're
we paid
coming out.
money to have those. Are
They're
they
coming out.
staying?
They're coming out, they are in the way,
Okay,
and then they'll go back.
okay, but they'll be gone for a year.
No, they won't be gone for a year, but they'll be gone for a while.
Okay.
So this slide here is just kind of the anticipated schedule. Obviously, as we've already alluded to, we're planning on beginning construction September 2nd. That'll essentially be like a mobilization week, start to do the site prep work, remove the trees.
Let
And
people take down their outdoor dining and all the other stuff that's out there right now, that it's gonna have to be gone.
And we expect the work to hopefully be wrapping up somewhere around, on or around December 1st. That would be, pavement restored and all done for the season. We talked a little bit about the pedestrian stuff. We don't have to linger on this, but this was just kind of a depiction. It's a little different than I think what the contractor will be
Yeah,
using.
those are
but,
bigger than what we're getting.
It's kind of the best picture I could find, but that's essentially what we'll be using to help direct pedestrians. There is an effort ongoing to try to get some to create some signs that still advertise that even though the work's ongoing, the businesses are open And these signs will be placed while the work is in progress.
Right, so we've been working on sign ideas. Thank you, Monty. And we have six?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6 different designs that we'll have printed and put on message boards for either end. Trying to, you know, even though it looks like a bomb went off in the center, we'll try to, you know, put these message boards around and we'll swap them out. We'll move them here, there and everywhere. So they move and they have different funny things to try to, you know, do what we can to encourage people to come in and shop and spend time there when we're not, especially when we're not there. I mean, we wanna make sure that the job site's clean in the areas that are gonna be open to pedestrians. And we'll make sure that it's as inviting as we can make it while we're not there, especially.
So I think this was distribution of information. So as we talked about a little bit already, obviously there'll be people out in the field every day. They'll be available to help answer questions or concerns. We'll use message boards when we need to, like the ones that are out there now, the variable message boards that can be lit up. We do plan on having weekly updates that we'll prepare and distribute to the city so that they can post on their website and email out to all those that are included on the email list. And then if there is, or when there is a need for service interruptions for like the water service, there'll be hand delivered notices and coordination ahead of time, so that everyone's aware and we're all set when we have a good time that works for everybody. So that's what we had.
Okay. Questions? Good.
My grease trap is out underneath for La Coretta.
Mhm.
Can I have someone come out and make sure it's not gonna be impacted? Cause all the lines go from the grease trap in the front to the inside.
I know where your grease trap is and it should be
Okay.
fine.
It should be fine.
Yep. I was
Are
there
you
when
guys gonna cut up any of that area that belongs to La Coretta, or is it just city property?
it's city property.
Okay.
Some of them might get scratched and dented and banged up a little bit. Anything that we impact, we will restore.
Cause they did go out and do a lot of marking
Yes,
this week, and some of it is going through like our stuff. But my biggest concern is the grease trap, that all the lines are out there going in.
yeah, the grease trap will be fine. It's designed to have trucks on top of it. It was built that way.
Okay.
So that if we have to drive over it,
Which is
It'll be
fine,
fine.
it's just my concern was like the cutting up of the surface.
it'll be okay.
Okay,
It's gonna be fine.
okay.
Yep.
I'm like, okay.
It's on, it's being recorded.
Being recorded.
I was wondering if work progressions, like where are we gonna start, where is it gonna start, just to kind of like people can understand sort of how is the flow gonna happen.
So let's talk about that. So the temporary water main is gonna get fed from the hydrant that's in front of the Worth building. Across from the arch, okay? There's a hydrant there.
On Congress.
That's gonna be the water supply. Other than that, when you install utilities, you install them going uphill. Hanover Street is downhill. So Hanover Street is where we start. And then we end up at Congress Street. And then when we get to Congress Street, we will do temporary tie-ins in Congress Street itself to get us through the winter season. So we'll have to marry the new utilities that we just installed to the ancient utilities that are still on Congress Street, which are part of the second phase of the job, which hasn't been awarded yet, but likely will. So, but in the interim, we have to marry those utilities together so that they operate properly all winter. And then right now, the proposed schedule is in the early spring, we would start the Congress Street project. And again, working uphill, because the Von Mall is the lowest spot, the utility infrastructure would start right there at the end of the Von Mall and head toward Fleet Street and head up toward Maplewood Avenue, which is the bigger leg. So all the utilities that are, up by Jimmy's and all that stuff all the way up to Maplewood Avenue. And that's really kind of it's kind of the end, because historically Maplewood Avenue didn't exist prior to when they built the Vaughn Mall. So, and that's the top of the hill. So all the utilities in this zone kind of end right there in front of where the health food store used to be. At the top of the hill at Congress and Maplewood. So everything kind of flows from there down to the Vaughn Mall. So that would be the restoration. And the restoration for Congress Street is in the second contract. But the Vaughn Mall, because we had to fast track the Vaughn Mall, we didn't have time to do the full design of the restoration, which is why the restoration of the Vaughn Mall is a separate contract that we now have to fund.
Yeah, we sort of accelerated the Vaughn Mall because we still have to do another parallel project of getting an outlet. You know, we're doing sewer separation where the stormwater and the sewer are in the same pipe. The problem is once you start taking the stormwater out, you still need to put it somewhere. So we have to put another outfall project in over in Maplewood. So these things are all kind of all part of the Fleet Street. Really,
There
Fleet
are,
Street is small
there are
potatoes compared-
3 different Fleet Street projects.
So we're kind of balancing that with, because the Vaughn Mall was at risk of like imminent failure, we're like, we gotta do this and get this going. Because there really wasn't too much stormwater generated here that we had to accommodate in our
Right, the
system.
Vaughn Mall in itself is separated. They separated the stormwater away from the sewer in 1972. But the pipe is too small for the modern storms, and it's too small to separate the rest of downtown, which we want to do in the future Fleet Street jobs. So the storm drain, which is already there, has to get bigger. The sewer was not replaced in 1972. It's original. It's original, and it is old, and it is fragile. And then the water main, as I already alluded to, is original equipment. So when we're done, everything under the street, everything under the mall, used to be a street, will be replaced. So, and it's ready to go for another 100 years. Every 100 years or so, you gotta do this. Yes,
So let's say your part, the under earth is done December 1st, December 2nd until April something. What will it actually look like?
it's gonna
Will
look like a paved surface. So we're gonna,
the entire thing
Yep.
or just one path or,
there won't be much concrete left when Brooks is done.
oh, it's all Brooks.
It'll be gone.
And most of it will be
Okay.
gone. So the entire surface will look like asphalt. It will be asphalt.
I mean, I'm assuming it's
It won't be open to
wheelchair.
traffic, of course, because there are curbs at Hanover and at Congress Street. So cars won't be in there, but it'll be a paved surface so that we can plow it, we can maintain it and keep all your shops open while we're master planning the restoration job.
Wheelchair accessible, just making
Yeah,
sure
yes.
that's,
So-
and even with the temporary wall construction, everything is wheelchair accessible, because.
Yes.
Okay,
We're legally obligated to maintain accessibility.
yeah, I know, it. I'm sure you are, but I'm just making sure you hear that.
Are there gonna be any changes to the network connections? I know Comcast and First Light have utilities running through there. That's how we're connected to our network. I don't know if there was any changes to that.
So the only thing that, there won't be any connection changes. We do have to work on the telephone system a little bit. There's a telephone manhole right outside his office, right by the goods. And that telephone manhole is in his way. So we literally have to build a new telephone manhole on the side of the telephone manhole, then move the wires into the new manhole. So that's gonna be one of the first things we do too.
The telephone, is that the same as the
It's all
network?
telephone,
It all-
fiber, everything.
All the same. They
Oh,
all
there
run
is
through
gonna
the
be
same,
some shift.
they all run through the same.
I don't, I think the anticipation is like, they're really just gonna shift it. It's not cut them,
Right.
splice them, do anything
No,
like
it's
that.
not
It's like
cutting and
they're gonna
splicing,
maintain
it's-
operation.
It's building
Unless we hit something.
and shoving.
Building and shove.
It's more of a shove than it is a splice.
Just how about a
Right.
push, just a
Yeah.
gentle push,
Yeah.
not a shove.
Yeah, no, so
So there is
an
an electrical box in front of our store, so I didn't know if that was being touched or affected.
Yes, that'll be destroyed.
It'll be
The power of the lighting and the little black cabinet that's in the work lot up against the guardrail comes from the transformer that's over by Steve Wilson's other building. So power supply should not be, we're gonna run temporary, that's why we have to run temporary lights, because everything that's electrical underneath the mall that was put in 1972 is gonna be toast.
But I believe our network connection runs through that electrical box there. That's why I was
You
questioning.
don't have internet going through an electrical box, that would be a code violation.
Well, talk to Comcast and talk to First Light, but.
So Comcast is actually they're one of our partners
Okay.
on this job, so. We will work with them, we understand how things work.
Don't wanna lose. You know, internet.
You don't wanna lose your internet, or dial up or anything else.
Dial up, wow, you're dating yourself there.
You have mail.
They did. They just
Yeah.
dropped that off.
All right, so this is gonna be posted online. There are business cards here. We are gonna be around starting after the second. Cheryl is very good. She's been working with me on Islington Street for about 4 months now. She's very, very good at her job, so I'm glad that she's on our team. And Brooks just got done doing Willard Ave for us, and he did an excellent job over there too. So I am very glad that he's on our team too. So we have a really good construction team. We think it's gonna go fine, honestly.
It was just a nightmare a year ago.
Yep,
I mean,
well, I mean, that was it was an unplanned emergency.
yeah.
That's the
Oh,
problem.
God.
When it's unplanned and it's emergency, it's never gonna, we can't accommodate this.
When you get a call, you need to come now, there's something black coming out of your,
Yeah.
That's
no,
big.
it was-
Something black.
that was my call I got at home. You need to come now, there's something black coming out of the sinks.
Yeah.
The heck?
Yep.
Sewer.
Understood.
Don't.
But that's
Wanna
why,
avoid that
keep us
now.
in the loop,
Yes.
like some of those things, if you see something, if you observe a smell, something like that,
We
let us know.
did a couple times, but they're like, it's just drain it out, and we did, but
Yeah.
it got to a point where it's just
Yeah.
no more draining, but stuff. With the construction starting on Hanover, and you said there's gonna be paths for businesses, would Baccaretta we have like this little rail that's been like at the entrance, would that be removed so people can access the door? Since that's our main door entrance?
Your door should be fine.
Okay,
Roadside dining is not fine.
the black
Roadside
rail
dining
that's
is not
there, yeah.
fine, but the door to get in is absolutely fine.
Okay, just because I
Yeah,
think that's
trying to
city's
get around
property,
that,
yeah.
And you guys don't have a lot of visitors.
Well, our main entrance is on Hanover Street.
I know,
anyways.
every time I try to go to the door, it's always locked.
We have to keep out the riffraff somehow.
And nobody has ever called me anything but riffraff. So, I understand.
But yeah, so I'm gonna pretty much block our entrance on that side, so I'll let everybody know not to use that, because we have several other doors anyway, so.
Like I talked about, that entrance off the Bond Mall where the elevator is, that's so close to the parking lot. And I don't anticipate, other than the one day that we're putting in the temporary water right there. You're not gonna have much of an impact right there because you're so close to the parking lot.
You know where the dumpster is and now there's just like this block of dirt that was made?
Yeah. So you wanna talk about the block of dirt that's gonna be a transformer?
Yeah, so is that gonna be a walkway now to?
No, the block of dirt is gonna be, so Eversource is upgrading the electrical infrastructure. So remember how we talked about how Fleet Street has 3 jobs?
Yeah.
One of the jobs, believe it or not, is Fleet Street.
Yes.
Yes,
It will be on
it's the
Fleet
last
Street.
project. So as part of that, we're upgrading the electrical because eventually we want to drop the overhead wires in Fleet Street underground. So to do
Fleet Street.
that, so
Fleet.
Eversource has been working.
Fleet is the next one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eversource has been working with the people that own the building that Underwood and the Goods is in. To upgrade that, and also the Ben Franklin block, they're both getting a new electrical service. That electrical service, and you don't know this yet. Is so the Eversource is planning on putting a transformer in that landscape.
Ah.
Or lack thereof, the dirt.
It's just.
They're
it's just
planning on
block
putting a
dirt.
transformer there, and then we'll work on some landscaping. To put around that after they're done.
I know it's where the people,
They're gonna service the electrical, you know, that alleyway between the Franklin block and Underwood, there's that little alleyway.
Yeah.
So that's where their electrical is gonna go.
Or there.
So they're working on a project to put a new transformer there and feed that. So that's also part of this project, although it'll be minor. The only thing we're gonna do is help them put conduit across horizontal across.
And that's sort of how the city's been doing this, is as we have opportunities and we're doing like whole city, like street restorations, if we're doing the utilities. If there's opportunities to underground aerial, power lines and stuff, we're trying to facilitate getting those installed or getting those there so Eversource can then underground their utilities.
So we find that if we work with them, it gets done during the project and then it'll come back to us a year later and say, we have to dig up your brand new stuff. Because you didn't tell us. So we have bi-yearly meetings with the utility companies. And we go through all this stuff, all the moving parts everywhere in the city. And we talk about all the stuff that we're doing so that we all know what we're doing. We try to plan accordingly. So we've been doing that for about 10 years now.
A great result on Commercial Alley. That was a,
Yep.
we buried all of those utilities, buried the overhead lines.
And again, no pedestrians were killed.
Didn't lose one of them in the pit.
We didn't lose any.
No, not a one.
Some ground.
Yeah, but also while Commercial Alley was done, we lined the sewers, we did some water stuff, we got that, market in that section buttoned up at a low cost. So it actually worked well, because when we coordinate these things, we had multiple different like utility vendors, there was the city, there was a bunch of different contractors, and it worked great, so.
And we share the cost.
And we share the cost, so it's kind of equitable for everyone.
Okay, so if you have questions, feel free to reach out. We are here to help you. We will get through this. I know it's gonna be, September and October are gonna be very difficult, just because of the nature of putting in the sewer and the drainage system are gonna be. It's gonna be all that in a bag of chips, but we will get through it and we will endeavor to not scare away too many shoppers.
Someone on there that wanted
I
to.
was just gonna say, we've got 3 people online.
Yeah.
If you have a question, just raise your hand and they'll.
And one.
My husband is probably just sleeping.
You're gonna cover the whole site every night with like Steve evenings or how are
You know,
you?
and make sure everything's safe every night. Yes.
Yeah, because the barricades are low barricades, it's not like we're fencing it and
Right.
leaving hold of it.
You know, somebody's gonna want to explore, that's not great.
Yes. Safety first. Okay, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you soon.
Best part of